Hello, and welcome to this well-being podcast episode. Today, we are discussing mental health for university students, and I am honored to be doing this with a wonderful friend, but also a wonderful mental health professional. Her name is Fola Reis, and I'll allow her to introduce herself. Hello,
Oh,
Fola.
thank you, Mai, for that lovely introduction. So as you mentioned, I'm a mental health professional, so I am a trained counsellor. So I offer therapeutic services to people all around the world who might be struggling with their mental health. Particularly a lot of experience with students, hence why I think you asked me to come on
Definitely.
your podcast. I'm also a lecturer as well, so I've worked a lot in further education, higher education, also taught counselling, worked in the NHS as a sexual health advisor. So I've got a broad range of experience, some other stuff as well, but I won't obviously fill you with my whole whole CV or bio. But I have been in this sort of health, education, social care sector for close to 20 years now, a little bit over. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a bit of a passion of mine in terms of education and counselling as well.
Wonderful. Oh, well, it looks like I'll be coming back to you at a later date when it comes to other topics with regards to
Brilliant.
mental health, because it's always good to have a professional and someone as lovely as you to
Oh,
speak
you
to, because I
keep with
know
the
you'll be
flattery, Mai.
compassionate. Well, when it's true, it should work. I don't do the lies, but we've been
Yeah.
friends for a long time, and I can imagine how much people you have helped because you
Oh,
have such a compassionate heart anyway.
oh,
And
thank you.
because we've been in each other's lives, I know your story. So I could only imagine how empathetic you are towards
Oh,
young people. But we'll
oh,
get into that another episode.
okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
We're going to jump straight into it so that we can give them as much advice and, some whatever tools that we can think of while we discuss this subject. I'd like to address the main thing that comes with student stress, and that is their ability to be resilient
Mm,
throughout this super stressful time, in a time in their life also when they're learning to be adults.
mm, mm.
I noticed, as you know, I have university age daughters, and I couldn't fathom the amount of pressure that comes with university studies, and then they're still having to learn who they are at the same time. So I'd like to discuss, first of all, when it comes to student stress and resilience, what are the main things that you have come across
Mm.
that they have to deal with and has caused them the most issues, for want of a better word?
That's a really good question. I think it can't be pointed down to a single thing. I guess there's lots of different elements. Like yourself, my son is 23 next birthday, so he's finished now, thank God. But from a personal point of view, I can see how the constant stress of having to be judged for your work as
Mm,
well, to perform, and academia doesn't come easy to a lot of people. So it can affect your self-esteem, affect your confidence, the deadlines, the pressure, the lecturers or the tutors, if they're not as compassionate or they have certain expectations and you don't quite get it, I think that
mm.
can be quite disheartening. Procrastination, I think, is something
Oh,
that affects a lot of students.
I think that
Um,
affects a lot of people, to be
People,
honest.
yeah, yeah,
Hi.
certainly, yeah. So there's quite a lot of things, and I think what you mentioned, particularly about the age that you go to uni. I guess for me, I went as a mature student, which was a lot better, but there were also people studying who were, 18, 19, 20, early 20s, and I could see they were at a different point in their lives where they hadn't had as much life experience as some of the mature students. So, being at uni was about finding their new friends, letting go of new
Yeah.
friends, wanting to socialize, have fun, but also, do what they came to do, get their degree and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of pressures. Um, Also, I think you can't discount family support as well.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes people, as the first people in the family to go to university, sometimes everyone has gone to university. So there's a pressure to get a certain grade. You need to get a first, you need to get a 2-1, you need to do this, you need to do that. So it can be pressure because you're the first. It can be pressure because you're amongst many who have gone and have performed well. Also, the element of quitting as well, because I know some people do change their courses,
Yeah.
or they drop out, or they don't quite, get their dissertation in. So there's so many different elements, like I said, to it that can affect student self-esteem. And resilience, I think, is something that you only learn when you're challenged. If you're not challenged by certain elements in your life, then that resilience doesn't come through necessarily. So the stress
Resilience
is,
can only come from having to go through something.
yeah,
You can't
definitely.
just say, I'm resilient when you've never had to practice resilience.
Yeah, yeah,
Even I'm learning that more as I've gotten older
yeah,
with certain situations. You can't learn who you are and the strength that you have without having to go through stuff.
yeah.
Now, it sucks, totally sucks, but it is necessary to help to grow character and, as we're discussing, resilience. There was something that you said, though, that I wanted to touch on. I know most people see university students as, say, 18 to 25-year-olds, maybe. But when it comes to dealing with being a mature student, as well as being a parent, or whatever your life responsibilities are, how do you manage your well-being and your mental health, having that, what you just discussed, all that academic stress on top of being a mom?
It's tough, but I think also it's important to know when it is time to pause, because you can always go back, or it's
Yeah.
like, actually it's not the right time for me. Because with me, I put off my master's for years and years and years. I wanted to do it so badly, and I thought, okay, now's the time. The time was right for me, and it was the then we had the pandemic, and it was the worst time in the whole world to actually go and study. And it really challenged me, because I know all the tools as a counselor, or I've got the theory behind me, but practically it was so hard. The world changed. We weren't on campus, had the kids, partner was furloughed. So it was one of the most difficult times. And I actually suffered from intense anxiety, waking up thinking, have I got a deadline? Should I quit? Am I, present for the kids? Is this affecting my relationship? Which it did. There's so many struggles. And, this was only, I guess, 4 years ago now when I got my MA. And it took me twice as long. There were so many times where I wanted to quit, but I thought, what you're saying about resilience, I really want this, and I need to prove it to myself that I can do it. But there were some sacrifices, I can't lie. And I guess sometimes when it comes to education, you have to think about, am I sacrificing this? Is this worth it? And sometimes it's not. Many people get far in life without having a degree or without studying. But I guess with some people, it gives you that kind of what's the word I'm looking for, Manisha?
It does
Kudos, maybe.
qualify you. It
Yeah.
qualifies you. It is something that you have worked very hard for. It isn't the role or route for everybody.
No, of course not.
And we could get to the same space in mental
Yeah,
health,
yeah,
but it was what you needed for your journey and for your character and who you are. You
yeah.
wanted to have that accolade under
Definitely.
your name,
Yeah.
and you deserve it.
Oh,
I wanted it too because a lot of places, when you go to speak to them about, especially things to do with psychology, it's what are your qualifications? Now, my qualifications is life, but
okay.
I do believe that's a worthy qualification because I don't think there's much anyone could teach me because I am that type of person that goes to look for the behind the scenes reasons for
Yeah,
why people behave a certain way. I've always been that way. I've always been a behind the scenes girl. So psychology makes sense because I love to know why, how,
yeah,
are people okay? It allows me to give people more grace
yeah.
because we are in such a spectrum of mental health. So I'm not saying that academically you shouldn't get a degree. I've got two girls doing computer science at the moment. They are in their final year. They will graduate this year, both doing their very best to get the highest mark possible. One of which who went to and did a study year abroad, which was a massive shift in her life. She's come back and she's now had to readjust and transition back into being the child when for over 9 months she lived by herself, had a whole different tribe of friends. And that has been a difficult transition, as well as then going back into their final year to now do the main things that their degree needs for them to actually complete it and have that qualification under their belt.
Yeah, you can
So
see from their point of view, can't you? And your
it's
own experience.
so much. I try my best to keep family stuff separate from them as much as possible because I worked out that they, especially in this moment, they need all the space in their brain as possible. I'm not saying life won't life.
Yeah.
It always will. But as much as I can give them space to just get this part done, because my daughter was here just yesterday and she said to me, it dawned on me that this will be my last summer break. As in, before she goes into any graduate program or goes into work, where now she'll be having annual leave at what, about 5 weeks a year, then they are not going to live by a term basis anymore.
Yeah, different
All of
structure.
that shifts. And I hadn't thought of that. So I understand how important it is to some. My daughter's extremely academic, but I also understand the pressure that comes with that. I wanted to ask you about the mature student side of things too, because you're not just dealing with the assignments and um the the schedule
Yeah,
of learning. You're dealing with the responsibilities of maintaining a home,
yeah,
raising children, having a job because you need the
yeah.
money to be able to even do your degree or master's. So I take my hat off to anybody that does a degree. It was something I wanted to do. I'm just glad that my daughter's managed to
Yeah.
live that dream on my behalf.
And you can still do it. Honestly, there's no age limit. But I think it's good to compare each end of the spectrum because again, with my son, he went for 3 years and then he stayed on where he was for another year just because of the accommodation and stuff like that. And then he came back and that was a big readjustment because they kind of hate it when they're there, but then when they leave, they're like, oh, that routine, that kind of familiarity of the terms and stuff like that. It's almost like that's a big part of their life for many years and then all of a sudden it's finished and you're in the world of work and everything's a bit different. So I can see it from his point of view, but also a lot of the students I have taught have been mature students. And you know what, the thing that I really try to encourage is life experience, industry experience. I
Mm,
guess for me, I had some experience and then I went to study, and I think that was a lot, it placed me in a better position because it wasn't just the theory. It was okay, I can link what you're saying in this academic world to actually what is really going on in clinics, what is really going on in youth centres, what is really going on in the classrooms. So I think it's nice to be able to encourage, mature students say, like, you've lived, like, what have you seen in your industry, what have you seen with your children, what have you seen with your family, are you the first one, like I mentioned earlier, to go to uni? And I think it just helps you to feel like, I can contribute to this world. And, I might not have the best vocabulary or, my referencing might not be perfect, but, I'm here to study and learn about yourself and learn about what your distractions are, what your procrastination points are. So, yeah, just going back quickly to the young people as well, I think they're living at a very different time. I guess when I've seen students, there are students who, are really focused and really determined. And then there are other students who don't necessarily have that resilience to come back from knockback. So if they've worked really hard and they've got a rubbish grade or not what they've expected, they kind of get into a spiral. Anxiety is rife with students, no matter what age, just worrying about hand-in dates, worrying about, do I get it? Am I stupid? Why is it taking so long for me to understand this? No matter what topic. So I think there are some things that no matter what age are going to impact your mental health, but there's things are specific to what stage of development you are and how you handle being a university student as well. And finances, I didn't mention that. There's so much to mention.
so my next question is, many students do not realize how stressed they are until it's too late.
Mm.
and they either burn out, which is something everybody knows or can end up dealing with. But what would you say to them would be the signs they need to look out for where their mental health and their stress levels really need some attention?
I'm actually doing a masterclass on Monday about burnout in general. I think we can't underestimate physical symptoms of burnout as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of energy, feeling really tired, or not being able to sleep. So either end of the spectrum, or our sleep hygiene, in want of a better phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our eating patterns as well. Sometimes when we are close to burnout or really stressed, we either overeat, we forget to eat, we undereat. There's so much things around, just things we have to do in life. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to go to work. Some of the students are quite lucky that they have, the financial support of their family or a bursary, but some students don't, or they choose,
Yeah,
they want to have, extra money, or, be able to afford things. So there's a pressure of work. If you're getting run down, feeling sick, feeling like you can't go to work, feeling like you're overwhelmed with the deadlines, just feeling that kind of chaotic voice inside your mind, or just feeling like, it's just something isn't quite right. Also,
mm-hmm.
study should be somewhat enjoyable, I say
I'd
to
hope so.
students. Yeah. Hopefully you're not pressured to pick a course just for the sake of it. So, if you stop enjoying it, if it becomes more of a grey cloud, if you're losing focus of why you're there and what you're there to do. So I think those are the warning signs that I've come across: the physical and the kind of mental chatter that you have in your mind about, am I good enough? Why am I here? So recognizing those signs are really important, and asking for help. I think that's really a preventative method that a lot of people, including myself over the years, have had to work on. People
Mm-hmm.
see asking for help, whether it's the well-being service, whether it's their family, whether it's their friends, whether it's their tutors. They see it as a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. Like, I'm struggling here. You might not be able to help me, but you could point me in the right direction for someone
Yeah.
who could. So I'd say, just to go back a bit, warning signs about burnout: the physical side, the mental side, um, and just not being able to sort of manage your emotions as well as you can. So little things just making you irritated or angry, or lashing out at people that you care about, can often be a sign that you're burning out as well. And one way of combating that is asking for help in the right places. Because I can imagine, just from my experience, when you do ask for help and you don't get it, that can even be even worse. So it prevents people from doing that in the first place. So, if you can have, access to counselling, I know it's not always affordable. If there are certain people in your family that you trust more than, if you've got a great auntie, or, cousin, it doesn't have to be someone so immediate, or even a friend, just say, look, I'm struggling here. I need to talk to someone about it. I think that can help with burnout. Um, I hate using it because it's overused, but self-care in some way.
But yeah, I know what you mean when it comes to the overuse of self-care. That now sounds like one of them buzzwords,
Yeah, it is.
but it needs to be recognized. And yes, it may be overused, but it still needs to be used
Yeah, yeah,
because without self-care, you're kind of lost. You don't realize that until you're lost.
yeah.
So I firmly believe, yes, there are certain words, especially nowadays, where everybody is a psychiatrist and
Mhm.
everybody's able to diagnose everybody of, because they've all got access to Google. No, but when it comes to self-care, that is something that we should have been doing and being taught from when we were very young.
Yeah. They didn't even know that concept
I
before, like
would say
self-love.
the younger generation are more blessed in that sense, as in they do have more information
Yeah.
and they are also able to teach up, especially if they have, parents or carers that are happy to change and receptive to change. Because I learned a lot about mental health and self care and all the rest of it through my children saying, Mum, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa. So once I realized there's something that we always realize as parents is that our children are watching,
Yeah. All
but
the
it
time.
isn't until they say something that it's just like God. You know, He's always present,
Yeah.
but sometimes you forget and your children pick up a lot.
Yeah.
And for them to say that to me, I was like, oh, and I'm supposed to be teaching them. So I have to teach by example, by learning from them, which I love doing, by the way. I think learning from my children they have been my best teachers.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But you know what I think about the whole self-care thing? It's about caring about yourself, isn't it? And your children look at how you take care of yourself, whether that's your mental, spiritual health, physical health, and all the rest of it. But why I think it's quite challenging is because as mothers or parents that are invested, you give all
Mm-hmm.
that care to your kids, but then you forget that you have to give it to yourself as well. So it's kind of like a bit of an opposite situation, isn't it? Because I've got all of this care, love, and I'm going to focus on them, and then they turn around and say, "What about you, mum? What about you, mum?" But you don't have the capacity because
Here's
you've given
I
it
don't know where that would come from. There
to
is not
everyone
enough
else.
hours in the day, darling. But we do need to make sure that we do prioritize it as
Yeah,
much as possible in the same way that we would schedule in getting our nails done or getting our hair done. That might even be
yeah,
part of our self-care. But do
yeah,
something, whether you're a parent or, as we're discussing today, a student, do something and schedule it in the same way you schedule in your revision time, the same way that you schedule in how long it's going to take you to do an assignment, schedule in rest,
yes,
schedule in time to recharge, and schedule
yeah,
in joy,
yeah.
love.
You like to
Those
do.
things
Yeah, I
are
was going to
really
say that.
necessary to
Yeah,
be, if you are encompassed in a space of joy and love and have a safe space, which again, another buzz one, but that you can go to, it would make studying easier. Because when
yeah,
you're at that point where you want to blow, you have someone to go to and say, I'm not feeling my best. Or even before that, saying
at
something's
all.
up, something's not, something's not tracking, something's not connecting, and I don't know what it is, so that you can talk and then get, as you said, either signposted to the right type of help, or the person you go to might be able to say exactly what you need in that moment.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
always reach out wherever you can. If you don't have supportive family, which isn't nice or isn't fun, there is services at universities, there's services with your
yeah,
GPs, there's services that you can do privately to make sure that your mental health is taken care of. Because one of the things I said in my leaving speech for my high school job was the grades and stuff is great, but if your mental health is all over the place, you're not going to get very far.
yeah,
So
definitely.
it has to be a balance and you have to take care of it as a priority before anything else, because you can build upon a foundation of good well-being,
Yeah,
whereas you can build on a foundation of academia, but with bad well-being that can crumble a lot
yeah,
easier.
yeah, definitely. And you know what? I think feeling like you have no one to turn to, that is the worst situation to be in. Like when you're
Yeah.
struggling and you think either I don't want to burden someone, or they're not going to understand, or I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm just going to hold it in. And that's when I think people's mental health deteriorates so
Mm-hmm.
rapidly, because that feeling of I'm by myself, I'm alone in this. When there's so many people who share their story, so many people who've had similar experiences, just some kind word, sometimes not even words, just a hug, or just someone showing that I'm here for you. I might not fully understand, I might not get it, I'm not a student, or I don't have a degree, or actually I do, and this is what helped me. Just having that person to turn to. But I wanted to go just quickly a little bit back what you said about parents and being a
Mm-hmm.
mother and things like that. I don't know, I can't quote the exact research paper or what it was, or if it was like a meme on Instagram or something like that. But they said the number one predictor of children's good mental health is the happiness of their mother. And that really took me back. I was like, wow,
Wow.
there are so many mothers who sacrifice and, let's be honest, miserable or unhappy because they want their children to be happy.
I've
But
done it.
actually, that's not going to work. completely counterproductive. And that really resonated with me as well, because I thought the happier I am, or the more contented I am, of course my kids are, going
Of course,
to follow suit in some ways.
it sounds so simple, but it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
It sounds so simple because it makes sense. One plus one is two.
Mm.
But when you're not even feeling like one, so I get it, and I've noticed you can see it. It does change because I know when my mental health changed, so did that of my children. Because your
Yeah,
environment changes, your demeanor changes, your energy changes, your soul, your spirit, what's coming out of you changes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
those closest to you feel it. And your
yeah,
children will love you in a way that is incomparable to anything else,
yeah.
as is the love you have for your children. So sometimes we do sacrifice in places we don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need to. But also, it's important to, again, just be real. I guess if depending on what age your children are, age appropriately, I'm having a not a great day today, but you know what? I'm going to try my best to do whatever. And then tomorrow's another day and I can reset. It's not about that whole toxic positivity, mum's
Oh, no,
happy and
no,
everything's
no, no.
perfect. But
That's not
it's
real.
no, it's not. And I think just being, going under that comment a bit more deeply, if you are in the main trying to, balance, as you said earlier, my kids' needs, my needs, and
Mm,
sometimes, of course, we're going to sacrifice, but compromise, but we don't compromise ourselves as individuals, which I think is really important. There's something else you said about faith as well. I wanted to touch on whether you have a religion, or you have faith in your own abilities as well. That helps students. Words of encouragement, whether that's self-talk, affirmations, people around you who are like, cheering you on. I think that's really been very instrumental to the students who have succeeded and have kind of carried on.
mm-hmm,
But also taking a break. Just because you take a long time, or it doesn't happen when you want it to happen, doesn't mean it can't happen. I think sometimes I've come across students who feel quite defeated. I didn't get the first assignment, or I'm in a group, working in groups where
mm,
I've taught a lot of students who hate working in groups, because then they're dependent on someone else for their grade, and then they get frustrated, and there's so much politics around that. I think if you've got faith in your abilities, whether you've got cheerleaders or support, that can really help you be tunnel visioned. And I'm here for a few years. I want this qualification. It's going to open doors for me. And just being, having that, I guess, self-esteem, and just feeling like you are good enough to achieve
mm-hmm.
your best. Um, I could talk about this topic for ages. So I just wanted to sneak one other thing in
Go
that I've
ahead.
noticed. Comparison,
Oh, the theft of
thief of
joy.
joy. Yeah, we said
Mm-hmm.
that exactly on
There you
cue.
go.
Yeah, that is something that I've come across, particularly now. I'm supervising some dissertation students. Their work is due in tomorrow. Goodness me. And I've had so many one-to-ones with them where, oh, my classmate gets it, or she's handed it in beforehand, or how does he know this? And I'm just like, you're in your own lane. You do the
Mm-hmm.
best that you can do, and don't compare yourself. And that's beyond study, that's in life in general, isn't it?
Of course it is. It's with siblings, it's with family, it's with friendship groups, it's with social media, it's with everything. Comparison is the word of this current culture.
Yeah,
Everybody is always comparing. It's not on purpose, it is a natural human thing to do.
yeah,
But when it becomes unhealthy, is when you really need to not. You can use comparison as a motivation. You're
yeah,
like, you know what? I've seen this person doing that. I'm capable of this.
yeah,
But if you see comparison as, I see this person doing that, I'm less than them,
yeah,
that's when it's a problem.
yeah,
If I'm comparing myself to anything, it's, wow, I want that kind of discipline, or wow, um, I'm sure I'm capable of that if they are. That sort of
yeah.
comparison.
It's healthy.
But I also know that I am in my own lane. I walk my own walk. And comparing myself to anybody else makes absolutely no sense because they're not me. They've not lived my life in the way that I've lived it. They've not experienced what my life in the way that I've experienced it. So how can we compare anything? There's too many variables.
Yeah,
So
100%.
once you realize that, you can just be like, I don't know what it took them to get there. I don't know what
Mm.
their behind the scenes looks like. I may not want to know because I could
Yeah.
covet what they have, and what they have that I don't see, I couldn't handle. So I
Yeah.
allow people to walk their walk the way that they walk their walk. And please don't compare me to you, because you will get a sharp rebuke,
Yeah.
because I don't
I love
like it.
that.
I don't
Yeah.
like being
It's
don't
it's
do what you're doing,
reinstating.
and I'm proud of you, but please don't compare me
Yeah.
to you, because I'm not you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really difficult for some, isn't it? Because it's like an automatic response, and like you mentioned about social media, and everything is almost like yeah, they're doing better, or oh, I'm doing better now, and it's really not about that. It's about doing your personal best. And I use that saying a lot: comparison is the thief of joy. And some people get it, and some people are like, well, yeah, well, I can't help it, I'm just gonna keep on doing it. And it's sad because it gets you into what I call the rut, where you
Yeah.
just get deeper and deeper down, and feel like you're not able to get out of it in some situations.
Well, I do hope they hear what we said about it in this moment and move from toxic comparison to motivational
Yeah,
comparison.
yeah, I
If you're
love
going to
that.
do it at all, allow it to motivate you, not to
Yeah.
make you feel like you're less than, because no one is.
To inspire
Absolutely no
you,
one
isn't
is.
it? Yeah, definitely.
I think everybody should embrace who they are, and we would live in a much happier, more joyful world,
Mm.
because there are no two people that are the same. And that's coming from the mother of twins.
Yeah.
They're completely different people. And I love that. Yes, they were conceived at the same time, but they are two very different women. And I'm grateful for that. And what everybody needs to understand is be grateful and happy about your little nuanced differences, what
Yeah,
makes you you, because that is why you'll be able to walk your walk as you, because nobody else can do it quite like you.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's so lovely. Put so lovely to just to think about. You are who you are, and you're unique. And
You are.
if you that motivation comparison is really good, because there can be healthy competition, but not to the point where you're becoming unwell, or
Yeah.
feel your self-esteem is impacted to such a lesser degree that you're demotivated. So yeah, something that I hadn't really thought about until we discussed about the comparison in education, and obviously recently with the students, and you know what they've shared too. So yeah.
You see, it's as we were saying, you are the academic and I am the life experience. Well, you've got both, but together it still comes out exactly the same way. Take care of yourself, stop comparing yourself, notice certain physical things that happen to you, keep an eye on your stress levels, make sure you're doing things to take care of yourself. We both know that. You've gone and done the science of it as well to be able to back that up with how the brain works and all the rest of it. I've just had to stumble through life and work it out. But we still both come to kind of the same space of
Yeah.
healthy well-being. And I just think, again, we walked our own walks. And here we
Yeah,
are.
definitely. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I love that. Well, now I have a few questions from students that I would
Oh,
love you to
brilliant.
answer for me.
Try my
So my
best.
first question that I have says, how do I handle the pressure of high expectations from family while
Mm,
managing my stress?
brilliant question. I think this plays out culturally as well, depending on your background. I think there are, so I'm not going to say, but I think we all know that education in certain cultures is not optional, and you have to achieve academically from even SATs. There's the pressures
Yeah,
from GCSEs, college, university, and I think being realistic and understanding that it's your life. Of course, the people who are close to you in your family want you to do well, and they're going to encourage you, But sometimes people's help is not always helpful, and that's another thing to digest. They may think they're helping, but actually it's not. And I think just gently or politely saying, because my son's done this so many times, because obviously I'm in education. I'm like, oh, do you want to send me a draft, or how you're getting on, and I'm being really invested, and he's just like, Mum, leave me alone. Like, it's not. I just want to get on with it. I don't need you. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And I felt a bit like, oh, I'm trying to be really helpful here, but actually it doesn't look like what I'm doing is helpful. And I think the fact that he has that relationship and he can say, actually, yeah, if I need you, I know you're there, I'll ask you. So I
That's
guess
great.
it's just gently saying to the people who are putting pressure on you, just like, I'm, really thankful that you're interested in what I'm doing, but right now I just need to focus. And so having those honest conversations, and saying, actually, if I do get stuck or if I need some help, I will come to you, and just explaining the pressure that you feel. Also, sometimes, I guess in my therapy work, we have inner voices, and sometimes those inner voices aren't our voices. So they could be our parents, they could be our siblings, they could be teachers who said you'd never amount to something, or there'll be teachers who, gave you extra work because they saw you were bright and you feel pressure by that. I would say listen to yourself, journal. If you've got faith, pray. Sometimes stress and pressure is bigger than us, and we have to give it to God. We have to give it to, you know, something else that isn't us, because it's greater than us. And I find journaling, writing down, even sending yourself a voice note, you don't have to use pen and paper, which I am a fan of, but you don't have to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah. Clearing your mind and thinking, what pressures are coming from myself and what pressures are coming from external factors. Also, just as a tip, remind yourself why you're there. What do you want to do at the end of it? I think for me, it's maybe a bit superficial, but my first degree, I just wanted that cap and gown. I just wanted that photo. I just need that photo. And every time I wanted to give up, or my son was really quite young, he was 8, 9 at the time, he's now 23, so it's a long time ago. He would be stressing me out and like, you don't spend time with me, and I wasn't cooking as much, and there were so many pressures. I thought, you know what? I've been tunnel vision for a couple of years. And I'm just going to visualize me at the graduation ceremony with my cap and gown and my scroll. And I just kept on having that kind of image. So it doesn't have to be that image. It could just be something that, when I am feeling pressured by myself as well, or external, what vision do I have for myself? Where do I want to be once I've graduated? Am I going to have a party? Am I going to have a holiday? Am I going to just find the perfect career? What is that visualization, that strong image you can put in your mind, which actually helps your nervous system and helps you kind of relax and feel like, okay, I know why I'm here, and I know what I'm aiming to achieve. And visualization, I think, is really powerful. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Oh, very much so. With regards to that inner voice, I've heard it referred to as talk track. So you have to change the talk track. That thing that keeps going over in your head, whether it be that imposter syndrome that's going through your head saying, why am I here? Or I can't do this, or that I have to do this, or this is whatever it may be, that they are talk tracks and you can change those.
Yeah,
Take that track out and change it for something that is more about you and not anything external.
yeah, that's a good point.
I understand that there are one thing I never did with my kids was put academic pressure. The only expectation I have had from of my children is A, to be good people, and B, to try.
Yeah,
Those expectations are it. When it comes to their mental health, they have three. They are three very different people, need three very different things with regards to keeping their well-being together. But even for, say, GCSE level, I know it's not the same, but my son needed his mental health to be taken care of, not his revision. He didn't need to have me do timetable for him to when he's revising this, or to put loads and loads of textbooks in his face for him to be getting the grades he needed for him to go on to do what he wants to do. And what I realized is that me giving him the space to breathe, even in that moment. I didn't care what the results were going to be. I needed to make sure that my child was okay, and his mental health was not in that moment. But allowing him to, even as you said earlier, take a break, which we called F it days, as in forget it days, just in case. Um, so we do nothing. I didn't worry about his attendance marks. I let him stay at home. We'll eat what we want. We'll watch what we want. We'll sleep if we want. And then, as we said earlier, try again tomorrow. And by giving him that space, he exceeded even his own expectations of his grades.
Oh, that's amazing. He's so lucky to have you, Maya, honestly.
Thank you. I'm just glad I knew it. I'm
Yeah.
just glad I knew in that moment, okay, stop. Not push, 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 push. It was okay, we need to stop. You need to do whatever it is you need to do in this moment in order for your mental health to be okay.
And
Because
for
whether
the
or not you get all of those GCSE results isn't an issue. What's going on here, which is with you your whole life, that's what matters.
yeah,
And it worked for both. It managed to help him in his mental health, him with his well-being, him taking care of himself, and now his academia.
yeah,
So
that's
I
a
would always
bonus.
put it first.
Yeah.
It works. That is the foundation we need. But what's the best way to bounce back from a failed exam without letting it affect their confidence?
Ooh, yeah, that's a really tricky one, isn't it? I think there's two things. Practically, like the feedback. What does the feedback say? Because I've worked with a lot of students who, they haven't quite passed and then they'll keep making the same mistakes. And what they do is they just scroll to the grade and it's a number. That number, it obviously says if you pass or, fail, but the feedback is the most important thing. Like
Mm,
what did I miss? What could I have done better? You know, what did I do that was good as well? Because feedback from your tutor should be a mixture of those things. So first of all, know why you failed and how you can pass again. Don't give up. There are many people that I've worked with. They've had resubmissions, second drafts. If it's something that you really want to do, those knockbacks are just going to make you stronger. They're going to allow you to learn more than you did if you passed the first time, because you're going to be covering, hopefully, and also what you were saying, actually, it's not an indication of how good you are. It's a test. It's designed to show a certain number, or pass or fail, no matter what course you're doing. And
mm,
I think it's important to not take that personally. It's
yeah,
not a representation of you're stupid, or it just means that first attempt you didn't quite get something that they were looking for, and you can try again. And lots of universities, they've taken your money and they want you to pass.
yeah,
Being behind the scenes, I didn't realize how much other things go on. And there are some tutors or lecturers who are quite strict, who are quite uh very meticulous with their marking, which is brilliant. But ultimately, they're in the business of wanting people to succeed. They want their university to, be up there in league tables. So,
hmm,
just having a conversation with your tutor, or I guess some of peers who may have passed, just getting that support, and also just knowing that that grade or that first attempt at, not succeeding doesn't say anything bad about you. It's just a part of, a wider bit. And, hopefully you're able to access the support, see where you didn't quite make the cut, in want of a better phrase, and keep going, keep trying.
yeah. I love that answer. Perfect. Absolutely wonderful. How can I balance academics with social life and part-time work without burning out? I think they're
Uh,
going to have a look at your masterclass for that one.
I think first things, acknowledging that it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So just knowing that you're not, it's not going to be, it's not going to be a smooth ride. Just acknowledging that this is tough and it's not going to last forever. I'm not going to be a student forever. I'm actually doing this because I want to get a better job where I actually can maybe work less and get paid more, or be in an
Mm,
environment where I really enjoy it and I'm not looking at the clock. So just a few things. It's difficult. it's challenging, but knowing that you can rise to that challenge, knowing that's only for a short period of time, even if it's a couple of years out of your whole life, that's just
Mm-hmm.
a stage where you're progressing, and also knowing that you're, you know, there are elements of life that are really important that help your resilience. So, do you know, I am a student, and you know, I do work and I do have all these things, and sometimes things will not all be streamlined. Sometimes your house will be a mess, or sometimes you won't do your best at work, or sometimes, you know, you could have got a B grade but you got a C plus, or whatever. Just knowing that, actually putting that pressure on to make everything perfect or everything good is somewhat impossible. So you have
It
to
is.
take the hit in some
Mm.
ways. Also sacrifice. Again, with social life, I think it's really important to socialize, but also, are you socializing at the cost of getting the better grades that you wanted to? Are you socializing with the cost of actually all your hard-earned money could go to a lovely holiday once you pass? But you're
Mm.
doing that. I'm not saying don't socialize. Please don't get me wrong. I think it's really
Yeah.
important. But maybe you can think about, okay, can I delay gratification? Can I socialize a little bit more once I've handed in my assignment, once that
Mm-hmm.
exam is finished? Also, learning about yourself. You know, is your social life really important to motivate you, or is it distracting you? Is that job really necessary as well? Because I know a lot of students that I've worked with, like, I can't work and study at the same time. I think that's really difficult. Or I'm going to go part time, or
Mm.
actually I have no choice. I do have to work, but that means I'm not going to be able to socialize as much. So it's looking at those elements of your life and thinking, I am going to have to sacrifice something for delayed gratification. And also, things do come at a cost. You have to think, am I willing to pay that cost? If I'm not willing to sacrifice my social life at the moment, that's absolutely okay. That's your choice. But that means you might not get the best grade that you could, and that might be okay. Or it might mean, actually, for my mental health, you know, can I defer? Can I get an extension? Is there mitigating circumstances so I can, you know, I don't have to put that pressure on me, even 2 weeks extra sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If there's, you know, a reason for it, your mental health or circumstances. Yeah, again, we want you, most education establishment want you to pass. So if they can support you and be flexible, you know, ask for help and think about, you know, what am I going to sacrifice for the greater good for a short period of time that can really help me. um and I also think, you know, just being realistic, something has got to give. We've only got 100%, and we don't have any more to give in certain situations. And I think that can really help. Last other thing I'll say on that point is reward yourself as well. Really important. You know, even if it's a small little reward, I find when I do have a to-do list and I tick on my to-do list, that's a reward enough for me. The fact that I've
Oh,
actually
me too. I
accomplished
love
that.
a tick. I love a ticked off checkbox. It makes me feel so good, and then I can do more. When
Yeah.
I have like, I'll start with a couple, because when I do too many, then
Mm,
I start to that element of failure can kick in.
yeah.
So I'll just do a couple. But then once I realize I can do those two and tick those off, I'm like, oh, I want to tick again. So I'll do another one.
Same.
When you have the capacity to do it, do it. The reward thing that you were saying as well is your social life can be a reward.
Yeah, cool.
So you can go out to the cinema with your friends when you finished writing your assignment. And I'm not saying that at some point when you're in doing the assignment that you can't go out, but it's again what you said, it's sacrifice. Is it really worth it? You're at this for a maximum of 4 years.
Yeah.
Can you sacrifice a night in the club, which is there every weekend,
Yeah.
and getting yourselves either drinking too much or whatever it may be, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, but we know the cultures in some of the universities and how some people choose to
Yeah.
behave, and each to their own. But just remember why you're there.
Mm.
It is for the social aspect of it. I do believe that's a very important part
Yeah,
of it.
it is.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're not getting that scroll and that cap and gown for how many parties you went to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is the work that you put in the and what you took out of the lecturers and what you took out of the extracurricular clubs, and that is also a part of the experience of uni.
Yeah. Also, do you know, I think stop scrolling as well, I would say, being
Put
disciplined,
it
because
down.
yeah, put it down. I used to put mine on airplane mode. just being able to think about what are, like I said earlier, what are my distractions? Can I eliminate those distractions? Do I want to FaceTime my friends? Yeah, I do, but maybe I'll do 500 words first, or maybe I will, research something first. And I think what I said to all of my students, and I was guilty of this so many years, being lastminute.com. Do not put extra pressure on yourself than you need to. You'll never, some people trick themselves like I did for many years. I
Yeah.
work
Oh, I
this
work so
pressure.
well under pressure.
Yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't. You think you do because that's a way of you coping, but you don't. My
Mhm.
recipe for everything is little and often.
Yeah.
Honestly, just do something little and often, and you'll be so shocked to see how much progress that you make and how you can eliminate some of that pressure, especially if you are working, if you do have a family. Don't underestimate, doing, okay, I'm just going to look on my phone, I'm going to research this article, or the exam's coming up. What areas do I not quite know? And we've got our phones in our hand all the time. I say to students, if you can use your phone rather than scrolling to do your research or even to watch a YouTube clip or just anything, make that device work for you and don't be a
Hmm.
slave to that device.
Yes, that's
I
very good
think,
advice.
yeah, I think it goes beyond just studying as well. Just anything you want to achieve, it's just little and often. And I think that concept's so hard for people to get on board because we want instant results. We want instant. We want, I do this. Oh, there you go. There's the result. It doesn't work like that. It's
Well, we
that
live
little
in a
chipping away.
microwavable world now,
Yeah.
but we grew up when there were ovens to
Yeah,
begin with.
that is
You wanted
so
something
true.
heated up, you got a
And
good while to wait, or you ate it
yeah,
cold.
we went to the
So
library. We're showing our age here
we
now.
took out, yeah, it's fine. We still look good for it. But
Yeah,
we
I'll
went to
take that.
libraries. We had to sign out books. We had
Yeah,
to do really go the extra mile, literally.
literally. Yeah,
So having that, all of that information in the palm of your hand, please use it.
yeah,
There is so much there, and especially with everything that's coming out now. And that was something I wanted to mention. You mentioned about vision and being visual and to visualize themselves. Something that popped into my mind is something that I've seen my kids use and that I use with regards to some of my work, which is image generators.
mm,
Everybody loves to vision board and do all these things. How about create a vision in one of these AI generators
oh
of
wow,
what you see? So even if it is you in that cap and gown,
yeah,
make one of those and then have that stuck somewhere as your motivation. That
yeah,
literally just came to me as you said,
yeah,
be visual, because I'm a very visual person. I need to see it in my mind's eye. But we now have the technology to allow what is in our minds to come out a
yeah.
lot better. So that might be something you could
Yeah.
do is AI
And I think
generate.
it's a good idea because some people are not visual as well. Some people, I talk about that inner voice because I've worked with a lot of people, and sometimes you can make assumptions. I'm like, I can visualize. Now, I think my sister, she said, I find it hard to visualize. Or, I was speaking to a client before, and I was like, oh, what voice do you hear in your head? Like, not into it like a schizophrenic voice, but we all have an
Yeah.
inner voice. She was like, I don't. And I was like, wow. So, you have to work with, I've never come across anyone who hadn't. But then she said it's more, I see things rather than hear things. And then with my
Mm,
sister, she can't visualize, so she can't see those things. So it's really unique. I think it's getting to know yourself.
yeah.
Sounds a bit cliche as well, but also knowing what your learning style is as well. Are you visual? Are you more auditory? Do you need to, go out and practically, speak to people who are in that industry, or do you need to do something in order to make that studying enjoyable is somewhat and also to keep you motivating that I don't learn in just one way. One topic I might need to keep listening to it, or one subject I might need to be really hands-on and proactive. So I think those are tips that I've really felt that's helped people. That little and often, again, simple concept, but it's so transformative in so many ways for students. Do not leave it to the last minute. Anything you can do, even in half an hour, 15 minutes on your phone, on your laptop, email yourself, just keep that kind of consistency with a little and often can really be, amazing.
Yeah. I think that is a very good one too. Now, before I get to my summary question, I have one more because at the moment my girls are in their final year and they are going for graduate schemes.
Yeah.
And the competition I've heard them having to go through the amount of interviews, the amount of stages. It could leave people feeling kind of low
Yeah.
because there are thousands of them going for very few roles. They are obviously in the technology industry, so they're looking at big tech companies,
Yeah, it's
and
competitive.
there are thousands of kids going, sorry, not kids, young people going for these roles. How would you tell them, or how would you advise them to handle the rejection that can come with
Yeah,
graduate scheme placements and
yeah.
what their other alternatives might be?
Yeah, that is just something that a lot of university students feel quite deflated or defeated afterwards because
Mm,
it is very competitive. And I've just spent 3 to 4 years doing this, and it's hard to get jobs and all the rest of it. I think experience is really important. I think just being able to sometimes feel like I might have to start like not at the bottom, but I have to, start
yeah.
somewhere. Also pivot. Sometimes you might not get exactly what you want, but if you're close to that industry or if you're in the right, if your CV or your application gets to the right person, it might lead to something that you never thought about. Obviously, I don't
Mm,
know so much about the industry, but I guess there's different fractions or different parts of it where they could go into. I say try to get some experience. If you are fortunate enough to be able to shadow someone that you know in that industry, I think nepotism isn't a bad thing. I'm
Neither
so
do
sorry
I.
to say.
I'm quite
Um,
happy for nepotism where
yeah,
it is due. I
yeah,
don't mean nepotism when you're not capable, but
yeah,
when you're
exactly.
capable, let's please, yes,
Help
please,
each other.
yes,
Yeah,
please. You
that's
should.
important.
It is a community way. I don't see it as, oh, you shouldn't be able to get up a ladder because somebody helped you up. Yes, please. We should
Yeah.
be helping each other up the ladders instead of trying to pull each other down. And but that's a whole another story.
100%. I think being patient, if it's not for you, then it's God's way of getting something better to you. I think that also try not to, I would say, try not to view it as a rejection. I think it's sometimes just redirecting.
It is. I see
Yeah.
I see all
Mm.
rejection
Yeah.
as
Because,
redirection.
yeah, that happened with my son as well. He got a good grade, was so proud, amazing graduation. And then he stayed to work for a year because he went up to Nottingham. And he stayed for a year and he was applying for different jobs and he was getting really disheartened and all the rest of it. And then he came back home, which was such the right thing to do. And he's now gone for a master's scheme, which is very competitive. And luckily he's got through to the final 2 stages, but you need to drive for this role.
Mm,
And he's now got a lot of pressure to pass his test. He's doing the 2 hour lessons a week. He's got everything
right. Yeah.
and I just said to him, if it's not this year, then you pivot. You These courses, these schemes, they're going to be there. It's just when the time is right for you. Don't give up. Be tunnel vision. If it's something that you want, then just keep going for it until it happens. Also, statistically, apply for everything. If you
Everything. Yeah.
everything. Also, again, be willing to sometimes I can't say take a pay cut, but also just think about it's not always about the money. I
Hmm.
remember when I started, I was doing a lot of voluntary work, and a lot of people were like, "Why are you working for free? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you wasting your time?" Like, and I looked at
Paying
them
your
and I was like,
dues.
"Yeah,
That's it. It's paying your dues for you to be able to ascend. I've never
best
understood that, why people can't understand that in order
done
to
that."
to become a leader, you need to be able to follow first of all,
Yeah, and
and
so
that you should serve before you even think to lead.
yeah,
I've never understood that. I actually enjoy serving. When I'm
yeah.
asked to lead, I'm like, no, I'll just help. I'll help because
No,
I don't mind leading, but I love serving. I genuinely love serving.
a lot of people don't, and I think sometimes it's about what can I get out of it. I want to get the highest salary or the highest hourly wage, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I was teaching counselling at college, I was the first one there and the last one out. I was there at 8:30 and I was leaving at 9:15 doing the evening courses. And to me, when I was there, everyone was like, "Oh, you could get a different job. Why are you working so much?" And to me, it was about the experience as well. It wasn't
Mm,
necessarily about how much money I could get. And then I've worked myself into a position where I can be flexible. And then my son was like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You get to dictate your hours." And I said, "This is 20 years in the making. Don't think that this happened overnight. It
Oh yeah,
didn't
so it
just,
was just like
you know." But that's where the nepotism comes in. Like, okay, it took me 20 years to get to a certain point in my career where I'm really quite happy and fortunate. You know, and I was like, I can now show you some shortcuts. You don't have to do it the hard way. You don't have to do the 12 hours because I've done them. So
yeah,
I would say just based on, your daughter's experiences, I think, again, it's really good to look at progression, but taken day by day. Okay, I've got this exam. After the exam, I've got this, I've got that. But also having that vision, okay, this is the industry I want to be in. Culture makes a difference as Black women. Sometimes those ceilings are a bit, lower for us and we have to push past them. So just knowing what
yeah,
your obstacles are and being able to, not look at it as a rejection and look at it as redirection, like you
I
mentioned as
agree.
well. And it will happen. It will. Patience. It's
Yes,
important.
patience is
Um,
definitely a virtue, and I know it's cliche to say that, but it's like once you have to learn patience that you realize how much of a virtue it is.
yeah,
Because if you don't have it, when you are humbled to have to work it out and get it, it don't feel good. So
yeah,
yes, please, just everyone needs to woosah every now and again and realize that not everything comes like microwavable popcorn.
yeah,
Not
when you
how
want it.
life works. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much. I've learned a lot in this conversation, and I do pray that it helps a lot of people. So, I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um, I will be putting some links of places that people can get support outside of
fantastic.
uni. I know that within unis, they do have the student supports. And if you are struggling, they are there to help. That is the whole point in that department.
Yeah,
Don't ever feel embarrassed to go and ask for help because, as Fola mentioned earlier, to be able to ask for help is strength.
yeah,
It is pride that stops us asking for help, which isn't strength.
yeah,
Pride stops us from being able to do things easier because we've decided that we don't want to put our hand out for help.
yeah,
So I would say make sure that asking for help is a strength, do it because you do not know how much student support are able to do for you when you go and tell them exactly what your struggles
yeah,
are.
yeah,
And there is a lot that they're capable of, and there's a lot that they can signpost you to. There's a lot of things they can lead you to. There is a lot of online tools that they can give you. So it doesn't even necessarily mean that you've got to sit in a room, lie on a couch, and tell them exactly how you're feeling.
yeah,
Not that. It's they will give you the tools based
yeah.
on what you need.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because also sometimes people will go for help and it's not exactly what they think it might be, or there's not a smiley face, or there's someone who just makes you feel a little bit low for asking for help. Then I guess it's about you saying, okay, I've asked for help. I haven't got the help that I wanted or how, but actually I can help myself. I
Hmm.
got those tools, or they've given me those tools, and I can research, and I have that accountability and responsibility. Okay, I am going to ask for help. And so, most of the time, it does work when you do ask for help. They have different ideas,
Yep.
different things that can support you. But in the small amount of cases where it isn't helpful, you've got that resilience and that inner strength to help yourself. And I think sometimes, in our darkest hour, we have to actually try to help ourselves and give it to God and be able to think, okay, this is a bit more than me, but I still have that fighting spirit inside me and I can
Hmm.
still support myself to get through the challenges of study.
Yeah, sometimes it's just you need a little help, like when you're being taught to ride a bike, someone holding on to the back of it, and you're going away, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore, and you're able to do it. So it's
Yeah,
just a little bit of support.
yeah.
With Fola, I thank you so much for this conversation. I was wondering if you had anything that you wanted to summarize it all with, just to, tie it all up beautifully in a bow.
Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to have this discussion with you. It's like I said in the start, it's something I'm so passionate about. So I am really thankful and grateful that you were able
Thank
to,
you.
to facilitate discussion. And you're more than welcome anytime at all. Um, I think just to summarize, I do believe I say this quite a lot that education is quite magical, whether it's formal education, whether it's just researching something, whether it's learning how to do something or make something. I think it's quite transformative. And sometimes you can't explain it, you know. How does a child just all of a sudden they're learning how to count? Is it repetition? Is it, you know, something that they're curious about? So I think education can be really transformative, especially when you apply yourself and you also have that kind of feeling of, okay, it wasn't easy, but I've actually got something to show out of this. You know, I have this degree. I'm able to, you know, take components apart and put them together. I'm able to teach people. I'm able to, you know, build something, fix something, you know, and that isn't just through university, but of course, formal education does open more doors for you. So if you are, I would say, fortunate enough to have those opportunities, grab them, you know, go and do your best in terms of what you want to achieve out of life. And I would say the most important thing, though, is, you know, knowing yourself and educating yourself about yourself. Perhaps I shouldn't say this, but I always think it doesn't matter what topic or what subject you pick, like education in any form, it's about learning about yourself, you know, and that is one of the things that I would say take away. Do I have these weaknesses? Do I need to build on these? Do I have these strengths? Can I share these strengths with other people? So just thinking about education in the broadest sense, you know, it is about you learning about yourself and, you know, building that resilience, knowing when your capacity is low and understanding that, you know, you have a purpose and that purpose isn't to get the best grades ever, but it's to do your best and know that you rose above those challenges, whether that's through academic, formal or informal education, I would say.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think we will help at least one person. And if that's all we do, then thank you, Lord. Because
Yeah, amen.
honestly, when it comes to mental health in any way, shape, or form, you help one person, you have no idea how many people that one person may end up helping too.
Yeah, ripple effect.
And I am always a pay it forward type of person. Anything I learn, I want to teach others because I feel like I'm not a gatekeeper. And
Yeah,
if it's something that has helped me live a more balanced, joyful, you know, healthy life, then I want that to be
open that
something.
gate, let them
Yeah,
in.
everybody. I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah,
I found a way. I haven't found all the ways, but I've definitely found that by focusing and prioritizing my mental health, I live a much better life, which I thoroughly enjoy.
amen.
Even through suffering, there can still be joy.
Yeah,
And that is from learning to take care of my mental health and well being. Doesn't mean life is always great. Life can be difficult, but prioritize your mental health, whether it be in work or in university, in any kind of academia. And as you said, learn yourself. It's not
yeah.
just about the subject that you're learning, it's about you. So, yes, Fola, I thank you so much. I really thank you. I do think this was a great conversation.
Oh, you're more than
And I will
welcome.
be calling you on you again, I'm sure, many
Yay.
times in the future as we have conversations about different topics pertaining to mental health and well-being.
Brilliant. Call
But
anytime, Alicia. Brilliant.
well,
Look
I
forward
look
to it.
forward to it, my darling. We will be doing a lot more together, as I keep telling you. And for everybody else, please keep an eye on our social media and our websites for all the information you need about your well-being, about your mental health. It matters to us because it matters to you. So have a great day, have a great night, have a great evening. And remember, take care of yourself. Take care, guys. And thank you,
Bye.
Fola.
Bye-bye.